So welcome, Miss Elies here, your starseed guide and healer. Today we have a special guest all the way from New Zealand, Susan Sage, here with us today to share with us her amazing spiritual awakening story. So
Mhm.
Susan, from what I understand, is you had your awakening at around the age of 19, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, we would love to hear more about it. Let us know.
Well, I had been through a childhood that was completely materialistic, basically. My parents were not into spirituality or any kind of religion. I never went to church. I never had any exposure to any kind of philosophy or deeper kind of thinking, anything like that. I was kind of curious about, occultism and things. I'd done a few
Mm-hmm.
seances, stuff like that. I was kind of interested in like ghosts and those kinds of things as you are as a kid, kind of. And astrology kind of interested me, like reading your star
Mm-hmm.
sign thing in the paper. But apart from that, I really was just focused materially on, what's the next thing I'm going to get? What's the next party I'm going to go to? Like I was just living the teenage life of drinking, smoking pot, and had a boyfriend, and I was just doing all that. And so one day, actually, I won $100 on a scratchy ticket thing,
Mm-hmm.
which was quite amazing. Like, never happened to me before. And there was a spiritual fair happening in our town, so I thought, oh, cool, we'll go along to that. We went along, and I at that spiritual fair because I actually had a little bit of money because
Mm-hmm.
19, you don't really have much money. So I bought a book and I had a reading and it was all very interesting, and I was kind of fascinated, and I got this book, and then it was coming up to the end of the year and we were going to go away. Me and my boyfriend, he was going to work up at another place in New Zealand, and I was tagging along. I was just going to read my book, hang out, sleep in the tent outside of the backyard of somebody's house, basically, like with all these other teenagers. Just a
Living the
party house.
life, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, just basically a party situation going on. Um, But so I started reading this book, and it just started blowing my mind. It's a spiritual astrology book, and um, it was way over my head because I had no no experience with anything like that. But everything that it said was started to really resonate with me, and I was just like, wow, wow, wow. And I started to practice these meditations that were in there.
Mm-hmm.
And during one of those first meditations, sitting there in my tent, I had this freaking amazing experience where it was like the veils of Maya like got lifted for a moment, and I was just one. I was just blissfully in union with I didn't even know what really, but I know it felt so amazing. Like it was so beautiful. It's really, really impossible to put into words, as these
Yeah.
experiences are. But the thing about it was that it felt so real, and like it felt like what I'd been looking for my whole life, but not really even knowing I was looking for that. I'd be looking for love. I'd be looking for
Mm-hmm.
a fun experience or food or whatever. But it wasn't. What I experienced there in meditation was far beyond any earthly experience. It was way better, millions of times better than I'd ever felt. And I'd had a pretty good life. Like, there was no turmoil. My parents gave me a
Mm-hmm.
stable upbringing, all that, So it was just such a freaking powerful moment that I came out of that meditation just like, wow. And from that point, like everything shifted for me. It was like I'd been looking through this tunnel my whole life, like just only seeing what's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Very narrow frame of reference. And then all of a sudden that just got blown open. This incredibly huge spectrum, and I was realizing that I was a turn. I was never going to die. All this stuff about the world and how everything was set up on the world. I could see how that was all so such a game and a trap, and oh man, I was just awake for it just happened like that, and it was cool to begin with. for a couple of weeks, and I kind of had a couple of people I could talk to about it, but I was around these teenagers, as I said, and I didn't really know if they were into that. But it was when I then started to go. We went traveling. My boyfriend and I. We did a little hitchhiking tour up to Auckland, way up the top of New Zealand, to go to a concert and see some other friends and stuff. And it was kind of along this travel that all these changes started to take effect, because what had happened was I had basically uprooted my whole belief system in a very small space of time. So I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't even know what, because back then, this was 1998. There was no internet.
That's true.
Like mobile phones had only just really started happening. I think I had one of those little just, text and talk kind of, and it didn't have an LED screen or anything yet, It was very technology, it was very basic. And I couldn't Google anything that was happening to me. I couldn't Google anything. I didn't have any of that. I didn't have all these resources. And so when we started traveling, we started going up north, and we were staying at these places. And one night we were in our tent at a beautiful beach somewhere, and we had our heads poking out, and we were looking at the stars, and we smoked some weed. And it kind of went against my guidance system, smoking, but I was, kind of just doing what I did and trying to be normal and, carry on and still have a connection with my boyfriend. And I got quite stoned, and then I started to actually freak out. Like I was like, oh my God, I am never gonna die. and then I looked at the stars, and I was like, that never ends out there. That never ends. And I just couldn't comprehend it. And you can't, things like that, the human brain can't get around. But I was, just tripping out about it all, and my body was shaking. And I just kind of had, I don't know what it was, was it a panic attack? I don't really know, but it was the first time anything like that had ever happened to me. And I was really scared. I could not stop my body shaking. It was like a current was running through me that was way too strong, for my physical vehicle, for my nervous system. And and it was quite freaky. And my boyfriend was just holding me and trying to help me. And then we went to sleep, and in the morning, I was fine. But then I started to have these thoughts like, oh, you're going crazy. You must be going crazy. What happened to you last night? And then as soon as I'd have one of those thoughts, I'd go into this panic attack. I couldn't eat. I lost so much weight, and so through this journey, this little hitchhiking journey we went on, was like a few weeks, I was going through inner absolute turmoil. Like I was freaking out, but I didn't want to tell my partner, because I didn't want him to go, oh, you're going crazy, bye. Because I didn't know what was happening to me. I'd opened up my awareness. All of a sudden, I'm realizing all these things. I've opened up this current. It's almost like a Kundalini awakening, and I look back at it now, and I listen to people's stories about that. But as I said, I didn't know, because I didn't have anyone to talk to about it, and I couldn't Google anything, and I didn't understand what the F was happening to me, man. I was just, I just felt like I was going crazy. And to me, going crazy back then as a teenager was worse than death. I was visualizing mental asylums, absolute abandonment and outcast from society, everyone thinking I'm loony, because I didn't even understand mental illness. So this was the terror of what I was living. And then I started to think, oh, it'll be okay when I get back to Christchurch, where I usually live. And, I'll be back with my family and my friends and blah, blah, blah. And so anyway, when I finally did get back to Christchurch, it wasn't okay. My mum and dad, obviously, weren't really, because they weren't really open to any of that. They weren't of any help. My best friend said to me, don't lose it, Sue. Otherwise, then what am I going to do? Basically. So I'm like, fuck, I had no support. And so I just thought, well, I just can't do the spirituality thing then. I'm just going to have to push it all away. I just want to cover over the awareness that opened up in me. I just want to forget. I want to be ignorant. I want to go back to going out and getting drunk and, living that party
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle, because I was quite happy in that. I just want to go do that and just forget about it all. So I tried that. And that did not work. Like, I'd experienced something way more beautiful than ever, like this love, that oneness. And when you taste something like that, none of these earthly pleasures really do it for you anymore in that way. Like, it's going out and drinking just felt so empty. It was like, oh, why am
More
I
like
doing
numbing.
numbing kind of, yeah, like,
Yeah.
and just the level of consciousness, of the people that I was around, and what they were interested in. It all just felt so, like, wasn't it then
Mm-hmm.
really that appealing to me anymore. So anyway, I tried to live that. I tried to go back, and I couldn't. So I was plunged into this weird kind of middle thing of like, well, I don't want spirituality because it's messed me up. And I was really scared. So I want to push that away, but yet I can't go back to my old life. So I'm in this middle thing, and I'm having kind of anxiety still, thinking, shit, am I going crazy? And then I've got depression, like, oh, nothing's interesting. And so that was my life for about a year, and it was really, really bloody awful. And then finally, I came to this point where I said, look, get it together, Susan. Spirituality obviously has to be a part of your life. You've uncovered something here, and you need to go into it. You can't reject it. Otherwise, you're just not going to be happy. So I went to see a spiritual counselor,
Mm-hmm.
and she was just awesome. She knew, she understood what was happening. Finally, I could talk to someone about, after all this time I've been holding this thing inside me. Finally, I could talk about it. This has been over a year of pain. And yeah, and she kind of, we did talked about some stuff and did a bit of like energy work or meditation or something. I can't remember really, but it was good. And then I started going to her spiritual development circles. She was holding one of them once a week, so I went along to that and started like growing and learning how to work with myself, and just, oh my gosh, it was just amazing. Then I opened up into this honeymoon period, that happens with people when they first realize they're a spiritual being and that everything is magical and amazing, and everything seems so enchanted, and like all these synchronicities happen, and you meet these people, and like that phenomenon, I don't know if you've experienced this, but when you walk under a street lamp and it goes out because your energy is so like
Mm-hmm.
massive, and those kinds of experiences and all that. And it was just really beautiful. I had to let go of my boyfriend. I met someone else and made this whole new group of friends, and started really exploring and really getting into everything to do with spirituality. And that was really the start of my path. So yeah, so that's my story in a
Thank
nutshell.
you. Yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful one, and it's amazing that you experienced it relatively early in life,
Mm.
and that
Mhm.
you had the first experience that was amazing, which is great because that gave you the courage, I guess, to keep going because you're like, this is good, so I'm going through it. And I'm
Yeah.
also glad that you managed to finally get help. I think this is something
Mhm.
that a lot of people tend to, either they don't have the courage to ask for help, or they don't know where to get help, or they are too scared basically to receive help. So it's beautiful that
Yeah.
you get that spiritual counseling that
It's so
finally
important.
like letting you know what is happening.
Yeah. I mean, these days, it's so much easier for people going through
Google. Yeah.
yeah, because you can go on the internet, you can join
Yeah.
chat groups, you can, it's all there, people's experiences, YouTube. It's just amazing how much help you can get. And because the thing is, if you're going through anything inside that feels unsettling, you're worried, you're anxious, you're depressed, whatever, if you leave it in there and you just go round and round and round in it yourself without talking about it, sharing it, asking for help, then it ends up building into this thing that just can become way out of perspective and really warped. And you know um it's really, really good to talk about it with somebody who's experienced and who's knows the ropes, because gosh, what a difference it makes, because they can just guide you, because we're just going, what do I do? And people out there do know, what to do and can help. But yeah, it's way easier for people these days, but still very difficult to live through, though, on a personal level, for a lot of us, because it's that whole belief system shifting. Everything that you thought was real. I am a physical body, for example.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people really, 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 really believe that I am a physical body. I am all of the titles that I say. I am all the past that I've lived. When you start to realize that you're not that, and all of those beliefs that you held so dear and kept you safe, on some level safe, they aren't true. And then, well, what am I then? What is this? And you have to form this whole new cosmic belief system. But ultimately, it's better because it's kind of more aligned with the truth of what you are. So yeah.
Yeah, as you shared earlier about like removing the veil or the illusion, that's kind of the
Mm,
awakening process anyway. Like we are going through unpeeling layers upon layers, illusion upon illusion, and we get closer and closer and closer to the truth of who we are, and hence, coming into the remembrance of who we are, why we are here, and things like that. So
yeah.
as we start to kind of wrap up, perhaps do you have like one advice that you will give to people who are going through a spiritual awakening journey?
Um, it's going to
Or
be
two,
okay.
doesn't have to be one, but but like based on your experience, like what kind of advice you will give people?
I would just say it's okay. It feels hard at some points, and uncertain and scary, but ultimately there's a reason. Like, you're ready. Like, I feel like that I just kind of went through this very safe kind of coddle childhood, and got to a certain age, 19, where you kind of, you've all your chakras maybe have kind of developed to some sense, and then slap, wake up. It was like, carry on now, Susan, from where you've been in all your other lifetimes, back on track now. No more messing about with this material stuff. Just get on with it. And woke me up super quick. That doesn't happen always with people, does it? Sometimes it's a slow like process of just kind of getting into spirituality a little bit more deeply, like a calling that kind of calls us. But like
Mm-hmm.
for me and a lot of people, we get that, like that. It's happened to, I think Eckhart Tolle said it happened to him, and there's Michael Singer.
Yep.
A lot of other people have these cosmic experiences that they then spend their life trying to get back to, and their spiritual path gets built around this one amazing experience that they had, and eventually they end up being able to go back and have that experience. Like, I feel oneness now, like on a regular basis, make courses about it and meditations to help people get there, and all of that. So it's not like this kind of out there experience, but yeah, I just would say, just be fearless, keep going with it, reach out and get community around you that supports you, that are going through similar things, and be around people who are a little bit further on the path than you, so that you can, you've always got a vibration, someone there that you're resonating towards, that you're kind of inspired by, that you're growing towards, and that will give you more of a focus on your path, and more kind of direction, and knowing where you're going is somewhere beautiful and way better than where you've been. Yeah.
Wow, what a beautiful story, Susan. So for those of you who are watching or listening, the reason I'm wanting to share story like Susan with you is because we know that spiritual awakening looks very different from everybody. Like, not everybody experienced the same symptom. And then as Susan shared earlier, some people had it like a slap on the face, but some people probably have it more like a softer nudge, a little bit, a little bit. It looks different on time, on pace. However, there is some common theme that you might pick up, that you find that, oh, I resonate with it. And then probably there's a thing or two that you can learn from her story as well as other people's story. And as Susan shared as well, that, like if you could get a community, that could relate to you and someone who is further along in the journey, that will be really helpful to support you, because you don't have to do it on your own. It will be easier and faster, so to speak, to have someone to guide you along the way.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So with
Mhm.
that, if you guys want to find out more about Susan, you can find out all her description in all her information in the description below. Feel free to connect and reach out to her. And thank you so much again, Susan, for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. See you again.
See you. Bye.